So here's a question for you. How does a brand operating in the quick service food sector stay relevant? And I wonder if there are other lessons for brands in this respect. We're talking now to Daniel Padiachy, who's Chief Marketing Officer at McDonald's in South Africa. A very warm welcome to you. This word relevance interests me. In your space, why is it important and what does it mean?
Well, Jeremy, thanks for having me here firstly. But I think relevance is such a critical thing because as a brand, particularly in our space like fast food, if you're not relevant to the consumer and their needs and their changing needs, then you're going to be left on the wayside. And so keeping up with consumers in that space where consumers' palates change, their taste for food change, their need for convenience change, we've got to be ahead of that game because as McDonald's, we pride ourselves on being a conveniently located brand. How do you do that? Is it just constant research or is there a bit of gut feeling attached to this as well? Well, it's a bit of both, and it's 90% scientific, and we've got to stay ahead of the mega trends around the world, what's happening there, because South Africa is not far off from the influencing of consumer trends. And what happens is, from that perspective, we look at what's happening around the world. We also look at what's happening in South Africa from a consumer trend and profiling standpoint, and we merge that with our insights. But Daniel, you can't get ahead of the curve. You have a core proposition that people come to your brand for. And it's all very well to be innovative in that space, but you can't get too far ahead of what people expect from you. No, absolutely. And I call this stretching the golden arches. You stretch it far enough so that you're all-encompassing. And so our core is to serve good food fast. That's what we do. But we can enhance the experience. We can enhance how we serve you the food. We can enhance the convenience factor of that. So here's a typical example. A typical example would be you'd generally know McDonald's for drive-through and how quick and fast we are through the drive-through. But if you take that convenience factor to delivery, how can we now replicate the drive-through experience through our delivery service? It's another leg of convenience. And that's what I'm saying, where consumers are becoming more cocooning, staying at home. How do you take the brand experience to them sitting at home? And that's the relevance piece. And you've got to, as a brand, manage the risk in that. Well, absolutely. I think you just manage the food, the food safety aspect of transporting your food to that area of concern, and just manage that risk. How do you inculcate a culture of relevance, of innovation within your organisation? I think for us, it's because we pride ourselves on being an high-performance business, particularly with our people. We elicit a lot of feedback from the ground as to what's happening from the restaurant up. So we encourage our crew to give us live feedback as to what's the customer interaction like with certain campaigns. Well, typically, how would that work? What would you do? I mean, a guy in the kitchen, what does he know? So we've got different levels of crew in the restaurants, and one of them is called a crew trainer. And this individual, we've got a social platform called Connect Me. It's like a Facebook. It's like a McDonald's Facebook platform. And they can post... Internally? Internally. Yeah. And it's called Connect Me. So what they can do is actually post live comments to us and say, listen, you're running this campaign. This is the challenge. The packaging is not good, or the customers are complaining that the sauce is too much. Right, and that type of stuff. And that live campaign... So that's real-time criticism? That's real-time criticism. Allows us to change something immediately and then feed it back to the system. Do you, though? Well, absolutely. We try to at the best of our ability, but at the end of the day, when you've got a workforce of 12,000 people to engage with, you might get it right 60% or 70% of the time, but we try our utmost to try. But the challenge for any marketer then is to try and interpret that wave of data that you're getting all the time. Absolutely, and you just don't want to get inundated with analysis paralysis, but you've got to just stay focused on what your size of the prize is and maintain relevance in that. Daniel, I'm correct in saying that it's 20 years in South Africa? That's correct. 11th of November will be 20 years in South Africa. The relationship with the consumer nowadays and 20 years ago, how has it changed? Well, just as the consumer needs has changed over the last 20 years, our relationship with a customer right now has evolved in the sense that we've become a lot more intimate with our customers. So with the advent of the social networks, we've built our own communities on our Facebook platforms, on our Twitter platforms. We'll be able to engage one-on-one with them. 20 years ago, we didn't have all of that stuff. And so we'd put out something not knowing that this is the right thing to put out. But 20 years ago, it was a much easier market. There were less of you around, weren't there? There was less of us around, and it was much more easier to operate in. But now, and that's why 20 years later, it's a lot more complex, but also enable us to have the insights to the communities that we've built in the last 20 years with our customers. Yeah. Just in terms of CSI,
I know that's important to your organisation. Having said that, though, it also has become a very crowded space. Yet globally, the brand is known for this. How do you differentiate in this market?
Yeah, one has got to be very careful that you don't use it as a selling point for your brand. And so,
but inevitably that does happen, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, I think it's the default position that everyone takes from a consumer standpoint. But here's the thing. I mean, for us, it's about being authentic and true to it. And we don't speak about it. We don't advertise around it. And so McDonald's prides ourselves on supporting an initiative called the Ronald McDonald's House of Charity. And we've just opened up the South African chapter about 18 months ago here in South Africa. And basically what this entails is that we provide rooms at Baragwanath Hospital for mums that have ailing kids, children that are prematurely born and so forth. And these mums that are now discharged out of hospital, they cannot make the commute from and to hospital because it's quite heavy on them and taxing. We provide that safe haven for them at the hospital. And so,
and this is done with purely altruistic motives, or is there some brand overhang here?
Well, there is no brand overhang. This is truly attending to a need in the country right now, and that need is to foster this campaign between mum, the bond between mum and child, and try and facilitate that. And so for us, and hence you haven't heard a lot about it because we haven't put ourselves on the hilltop and said this is what we do. Just
finally and very quickly, we've just come off this thing called National Breakfast Day. It's a clever idea, but come on, it's a gimmick, isn't it? Or is there more to it than that?
Well, there's more to it, Jamie. I mean, everything is in marketing is the gimmick, isn't it? But I think for us, it was taking more of a stance of saying breakfast is an important meal of the day, not McDonald's breakfast, just breakfast per se. And we try to get South Africans educated around why breakfast is an important meal of the day and why you should start your day right and the educational process behind that. And so, yes, you've got to put a little bit of spin to it and create a lot of the hype around it. And so that's where we landed off with National Breakfast Day.
Daniel Padiachy, Chief Marketing Officer, McDonald's South Africa. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.